You know, there may be more stream delay than I initially anticipated.
Might be possible. All right, there we go.
All right, we have it proper. Ziggy versus Emimi.
So on the left, we have Ziggy playing as the V sprite character, and on the right, we have Emimi playing as Ruby. So you have Ruby versus Ruby in one of these two screens.
So, okay, ignoring this useless player skill attribute, let's talk about their outfits. Who has a better outfit?
You know, I like the one Emimi's going with, but I hear a lot of people love the scarf. And Ziggy is proudly wearing that scarf.
Pretty good. Alright. So to go full bias commentary, Ziggy's outfit is marginally better, therefore he is the better player. I believe that's how commentary works. Still going to commentary school.
We might be at our first week here of commentary school, so we're figuring this stuff out.
So anyone, if this is your first time watching a race, this game's got a bunch of new mechanics, like a bunch of movement mechanics in it, but you only start the game with a single jump. You can use it after falling, but it's the only thing you got. Very quickly you gain access to a flutter jump, if you know, familiar, kind of like similar to Yoshi's Island a little bit. You get double jump, you get ground slide, you get range attack, bunch of stuff that all comes in the early game.
And here in this initial level, the saves are fairly far apart from each other, so deaths can be costly. Both of our runners are pretty experienced, though. I don't expect to see an early death here. There you just saw both players executed what we call a damage boost, where you take a hit from an enemy that pops you up into the air, and then you're able to jump to a higher platform that's not intended for you to be able to reach.
We're going to see a lot of that later on. It's actually the cause of a couple big skips.
And here we are just fighting the enemies that come out of this portal, kill an enemy, and it lowers the HP of the portal. And once it's done, here we get from our friend Ira a feather. What does that feather do, Shark?
You can fly. I love flying.
They're not flying very far.
You're right. They need to try harder.
But that mechanic is called a flutter. It allows you to get some good horizontal and a bit of vertical distance. And you're able to combine that with your jump to make some of the platforming easier and be able to make some of it possible.
What really makes this game interesting in terms of movement when you're doing platforming is the flutter and both jumps you have can be really used in any order, and the momentum boost you get from the flutter is partially based on your existing momentum. It really adds a lot of nuance to how you can do the platforming and how you can do things faster.
Unfortunately, Emimi did get grabbed there by the grabby hands, and that's going to set him back quite a ways. They do about 50% of your HP and damage, and so he was low enough that he got sniped. In the meantime, Ziggy just clearing out that second portal, which is a requirement in order to progress to the first boss.
You know, Kik, I have to tell you, your tone's a little too professional to pull off the term grabby hands.
Thanks. So anyway, here we are on Ziggy's screen, starting the fight with Myogi, the daughter of the Demon Lord Jaewol, who we set free earlier. And the goal with this fight is to hit the boss 3 times. And you can hit the boss once after each attack that she dishes out.
Pretty much what comes down to it is you can't really do anything to make this boss go faster. There's a small RNG element because she has 3 different types of enemies she can summon when she chooses to do her summoning attack, but you can't really do much. The early game sort of clusters most of the game's RNG into sort of one inconvenient run resetty package, but once you get past that, it mostly just comes down to really good consistency, execution, and the strats you go for. Early game is not super interesting, but then you get the slide and this game really starts amping up and what you're able to do. If you're wondering why Ziggy was able to clip there, if you're sliding below a very low platform and you hold back and stop sliding, you can actually clip your head through the platform and jump out and through it. It's not nearly as interesting and useful as it looks. It's only basically used in this area.
Alright, so we see Ziggy making his way through. These are the turrets that shoot. Those also do about half of your HP and damage. But you see there, he was able to take 2 hits from that turret. And you're saying, streamer or commentator, why, if you can only take 2 or 1 of those hits and then you'll die on the second one, why are you able to take 2? And it's because when you go through a save, it actually restores your HP slowly. So you can take more damage before you die if you've recently grabbed a save.
I believe that works because the save attempts to restore 100 HP and doesn't care if you take more damage while you are still restoring HP, and only stops healing you when you get the full HP. So you can happily take damage while you're healing and still get through it just fine. That's another place where that floor clip is used. Coming up on the first actual real boss with this game, Pergora. This boss is a bit of an RNG nightmare. He has a bunch of attacks. You have to use a bunch of different weapons or react to how he's moving and which attack to use which weapon. There's a lot of variance on this fight, and executing correctly based on his attack order is really frustrating. That's a really good RNG, though, to get the vomit attack.
Yeah, so looks like Ziggy was able to get the best attack you can get, but after he got another one. So it's not the best kill,
high swoop,
but it was pretty good.
That attack's the best because you don't have to play. You just have to sit still, take damage, and mash him. It's like playing an MMO. No skill required. Okay, coming up, falling skip. So the game is kind of janky about some of its in-game engine variables. It have double jump if you reload from a different save, and this is the only mid-air save in the game, so it's the only place in the game you can actually abuse that. You're supposed to fall for a really annoying auto-scroller, but thanks to this really nice setup, you can sort of land on the very corner of this box that defines the auto-scroller, and it still gives you these free-form flying physics you get in the auto-scroller section, but you also get to go outside of it. This saves about 12 seconds or so, as opposed to just jumping normally straight out and not getting the extra physics. I don't remember the exact time save off the top of my head.
And it saves close to a minute compared to doing the auto-scroller, so it's a pretty big skip just to be able to pull that off in general.
The auto-scroller is awful. Not only is it boring, it's random how fast you can do it. Okay, double jump is coming up. The game gets fun now.
So we see Emimi just finishing up Pergora, so he's a bit behind, but he's making his way out of the floating keep. Meantime, Ziggy's now got that double jump, so he's going to be able to progress up to the corner of the mountain where Electram is hiding.
Oh, if you're wondering why Ziggy's teleporting around, some things in this game, they save even though you didn't save. So you can reset to your previous location, your previous save, and whatever you accomplished still carries over. So he got the double jump, reset his position back here, and as you see, he's skipping the saves on the way to the boss. So after he defeats the boss and collects this power-up, he's going to reset his position again and go all the way back towards the village. This saves so much time as opposed to taking every save and just walking back. This boss is Electram. There's a little bit of randomness. If you're really lucky, he can avoid ever using one of his invincible attacks, and you just kind of kill him in one attack less. And considering Ziggy's hit is in rage phase, with only one attack into the fight, he's got about a 2/3 chance or so of being able to kill the boss without ever seeing the unlucky attack if he has good execution.
So Mimi getting that feather while Ziggy is just waiting out the enrage phase here on Electram, in which case he should be able to finish up this boss in short order.
No! He got orbs!
He got unlucky with the luck.
Commentator's curse. Shouldn't have said anything. Just wait until he finishes and then you talk about it.
To be fair, it is fairly unlikely that you ever actually get through the boss without seeing that attack, which is why it's so hype when it does happen.
It saves so much time. It's insane. Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier. He's just going to teleport back and skip several saves worth of backtracking and go all the way back to the village, and he's basically in the next area already. I mean, he's also Electram, so he's not that far behind.
And should be noted, as well, if you're unfamiliar with this game, what Ziggy just got from Electram is the ability to now shoot pulse orbs. It's a range attack. Well, not pulse orbs, the orbs of purity, rather. And it lets you now shoot bullets at your enemies from far away. It's going to be very useful for picking off some small enemies, but also for some bosses which you can't even use the melee attacks on.
The orbs are limited by sort of clip size and the refresh rate, so you can hit your button as fast as you want, you're just going to run out of orbs, and they come back periodically. Ziggy's not too far away from the first really major skip of the game. There's a kind of tricky damage boost that gets you through about half the level, but the problem with that damage boost is that in doing so, you don't hit any saves on the way. There's a lot of damage you take, there's a lot of enemies throwing projectiles at you, so you have to go for sort of a gauntlet section without figuring out the fastest way to do it, and, not actually die. He's taking the safety save here, which I do respect.
Mimi's in a bit of trouble on Electram here. Ooh.
5
Got
HP.
away with 5 HP, that is something.
Okay, Ziggy's taking 50 damage for the damage boost, so he's going for the backup heart. Okay, that's why I took the backup save. I respect it.
Falling short, hitting that. Some of the obstacles in this game will deal damage to your character, and you have 100 health, so you can take hits, and that's fine as long as you don't have your HP hit 0. However, some of them are also instant death. and he touched one of the spikes there that causes instant death. So a bit unfortunate for Ziggy.
You know what I want to say? Ziggy has enough backup HP. He should have, if he didn't take an extra hit, he could have tanked for this windmill rather than doing it the slow way. Because what happens, the bug came back to cut him off, but if you save enough HP, you can just take a hit on that final spinning windmill and go through without the bug being able to hit you. It's way safer. If you're going to go for the backup hard strat, that's what I want to see our runners doing, is trying to save all their HP on the enemies and spend it all on the windmill later.
Oh man, Ziggy's really having a hard time, and that's letting Emimi catch up. He's only, about a half save behind now.
Yeah. We'll be on the same section pretty soon if Ziggy doesn't get this right now.
That's just something about this game, Wings of V. It's a very difficult platformer. A lot of times speedrunners will make this game look easier than it actually is. It's very difficult, and if you start making mistakes, it's easy to get nervous, to start choking, to kind of almost crumble with your nerves, and it can make it very difficult.
It takes hundreds of hours for people to start learning this game properly, for sure. Cave skip? Okay, not first try. This skip's kind of jank. These rock throwers throw rocks at you, and you can use it to damage boost, but they explode when they hit walls, so you're actually leaving the area. The code to make the rocks check the wall collision doesn't occur if they're not on screen, so it's the right sort of rhythm and timing. You can actually make the rocks phase through the wall and come back on screen when it's exactly on top of you. Ziggy's only taught me his rhythm strat for it, so it's actually pretty good at it.
Alright, so here we are on Amethyst, which is the next boss. Amethyst is kind of a fun boss. She picks from various elements and throws them at you. So there's wind, there's fire, there's water, there's ice, there's all sorts of fun stuff. You can use either your range attack or your melee. Yes, and bubbles.
That's my favorite element, bubbles.
You're able to do some damage to Amethyst per each attack, but then once you've done enough, she'll put up an invincibility shield, and you have to wait until the next one.
Yeah, the damage you do almost doesn't matter, because there's so much time to do the damage in the attacks, and you can miss 12 damage and still kill her on the same attack you would have otherwise. The big deal about this boss is that most of the time Cave Skip does 40 damage to you, so you have to do 60 HP, so you have to make sure that you don't choke and die on the boss. That's compounded difficulty is that you're skipping the save before the boss, you're not getting the heal because you want to reset back to outside the cave to skip the 12 seconds or so of backtracking.
So it's similar to what we did with Electram earlier, where we're just skipping saves, using death warps in order to save time.
Emimi got the skip pretty fast, by the way.
Emimi doing some cute moves there, sliding the opposite direction.
He's having a good time.
And Ziggy's cleaning up there with Amethyst and is able to get the full death warp reset back to before the boss, before the cave. So he's making his way back through the village and into the Sinister Grotto.
I can tell you that Ziggy's personal goal is he wants all of his Amethyst splits to be under 12 minutes in real time, so slightly behind from what he usually wants, but he's still ahead in the race, so nothing to feel bad about. This section's pretty basic.
I would say anything between 12 and 13 minutes for Amethyst in a race is probably pretty good.
Yeah, I feel it.
But yeah, Sinister Grotto, you're going to see a lot of underwater stuff. You're going to see minecarts, you're going to see lasers, and spikes. There's always spikes.
But the big gimmick is, in the whole area, both parts, is going to be shooting switches to make lasers go down temporarily, but they will come back up very shortly. So for example, this switch, you need to shoot again a second time when you're going up, otherwise the laser will cut you off. You can basically barely make it.
It makes a lot of the segments in this area a bit more puzzly in nature. You've got to figure out first off like how to do the jumps, but then also the timing for the lasers and the minecarts and how it all comes together. It takes some practice. The muscle memory can definitely help you out there, but when you're first playing it, it's very tricky.
If you're real good, you can actually go through that plant room in a single cycle by intentionally tanking damage through the plants and getting through right before the laser catches you, but it's actually pretty precise.
Alright, Emimi finishes up with the Amethyst fight, also gets the full reset back to the save before the cave, so getting that death warp time save is really good. Still not
Ziggy's
quite.
Gonna take saves on the way to the boss? Does he?
I think Ziggy will take the save before the Dark Annihilator, but not the save of shame.
Yeah. That one we can actually call the safety save. If you take the yellow one, that's the proper save of shame. No,
Yes.
okay, I didn't think he was gonna do it.
We used to take that save because on a prior patch there was
Oh,
a
yeah.
bomb at the end that was, we were never sure of what cycle we were on for it, and if you were on the wrong cycle, you would automatically take a hit.
It was so annoying. What's really funny about that bomb is that Solgren didn't know that sometimes you just guaranteed to get hit randomly, and when I made a submission video for GDQ, I complained about it. Solgren watched the video and fixed it like ASAP.
Alright, so Ziggy now is on the next boss, Dark Annihilator, giant robot with one arm. And, well, the thing with this boss is you cannot use your melee weapon to deal damage to the boss itself, so you've got to use your orbs, which we got from Electram earlier. And in the meantime, you just want to keep constant damage up, because your orbs only refresh one at a time, and you want to dodge everything, and it's fairly simple. The only thing is you need to beat this boss before it shoves you all the way to the right, because if it shoves you too far, you will hit a pit of spikes, which will kill you in one hit.
This boss mostly about the multitasking, because you want to kill those bombs before they leave carpets of fire on the ground. You need to kill the robots coming from the right that heal him as well, and to do the boss fast, you really don't want to waste a single orb on a single bomb or robot. Also, if your orbs recharge back up the free, you're losing missed opportunity to have, like, you know, orb recharging time. If you ever cap at your orbs, that's time spent not getting more orbs, constantly replenishing the fire.
Alright, so Ziggy making easy work of Dark Annihilator, moving on to the second part of the Sinister Grottos. Meanwhile, Emimi is going through the minefield, which can be a bit scary to go through. It's always something I think that puts nerves onto the runners, but we'll see how he does.
If you're wondering how Ziggy shoots for balls, it's just because he really wants to.
Emimi had to do that really scary gate jump there at the end without being able to take another hit, so that's always scary, but he got through it.
The actual explanation for the jank stuff where you can shoot for walls and some of these switches is the visual of the back blast, for some reason, is also a hitbox for the orb, so these walls are so thin, there's a couple spots we can shoot through the wrong side and hit the switch anyway. Alright, Ziggy's just coming up on the auto-scroller section real soon, so there's not going to be a lot to say, so I'm going to go slightly ahead in the future and talk about the upcoming boss, Terravine. It's one of those really fun bosses where you have to use your HP properly as a resource, so if it looks like they're just getting hit and playing scrubby, it's because they've chosen the best opportunity, like how much health can they spend for the most possible damage output. It really depends on his attack selection and the RNG you get on those attacks itself. If you're really lucky, you'll skip one of his attacks, because he has about 6 attacks. You really only have to go through 5 of them if you're doing the fight fast enough. If you're confident in the fight, what you can do is you can actually spend additional resources on him. He has a sort of instant kill attack you interrupt by sending minecarts flying at his face, but since those minecarts do damage in one go, if you're confident that you do the fight fast enough and not worry about it.
Yeah, so one thing Lenny's noting here in chat is that Emimi is using a different weapon on Dark Annihilator than what he saw Ziggy use, and it doesn't matter a whole lot. The main thing is you just want to avoid using any orbs to snipe the bombs and the missiles. If you're using orbs to do that, you're not damaging the boss. So as long as you're careful, it doesn't matter too much.
The weapon's just preference. The long-range weapon does half damage, but it's more than enough to snipe 1 HP bombs and 2 HP bots, so most people use it. Emmy's probably used to doing the fight on the harder difficulty mode, where bots have free HP, so he's just accustomed to using Pride, which does 4 damage.
Yeah.
Ziggy's gonna take all 3 minecarts, right? Yeah, no? Safety 1? Alright. They do about like 4% of the life or something. Some runners go for all 3. I want to see him start tanking here if he gets the lasers attack.
So with Terravine, again, you just want to stay in his face and just do as much damage as you can. Nice job using the bottom laser there, the damage boost over one of the other ones. He's able to avoid an extra hit by playing his cards right with his HP.
So, fun fact, you have to collect the toolbox and skip the cutscene for the boss to count as dead, but the game doesn't actually care if you're alive. It just checks if the toolbox lands on your dead body, and it doesn't matter. You can still complete the boss when dead.
Also, we just saw, unfortunately, Emimi take a very, very large death there. He was almost done with the underwater minecart section.
Yeah,
and
we
he had skipped 2 saves to get there. And that was almost the very end of the second save that he skipped. And so now he's got to redo the first 2 saves plus the third one again.
Kinda sucks. But those saves take so long to get because they throw you off cycle, which makes you lose additional time. If you're on the right cycle for all 3 rooms, you basically don't slow down for any reason, and taking any save just throws your cycles off whack. So people usually skip them.
Meanwhile, Ziggy's here in the underworld now. This world is full of fire and demons and dead trees.
You better quick kill a skeleton. At least one.
So yeah, we're about to be introduced to a new enemy, the skeleton, which is one of my favorites. It's going to latch onto your position and then do a swooping dash towards you. And so what you can do is you can manipulate it to avoid the damage and then put it in a spot that's easy to kill. However, because the portal spawns the skeletons in your face, you can, if you do your jumps and flutter correctly, you can be right on top of him when he spawns and get the damage needed to quick kill the skeleton. We didn't see Ziggy get one of those there, but he still played the portal well regardless.
I am this close to making a video guide for people to learn how to do it properly. It's not hard and saves a lot of time. So this is the dash wing mechanic. It gives you an 8-way dash when you collect the feather. The fun thing with this is you can use this at any time in between all your flutters and jumps and regular movement. And there's an additional sort of glitch with that. Since flutter is already sort of momentum based, there's a couple height based skips where you flutter with good timing after a dash, and it adds dash momentum onto your flutter, which is unintended.
So here we're seeing a screen with a mechanic of crumbly rocks, where if you stand on top of the rock, it will crumble away and you cannot reuse that platform. There's a lot of fun stuff like that inside of the underworld, as well as other areas of this game.
To explain this ahead of time, there's fog walls that sort of you can't go past until all the enemies are killed, but it doesn't check if enemies are killed, it checks if they're off screen. So he doesn't have to kill the skeleton flies off and he's good. There's some sort of skeleton manipulation strats in a lot of areas, because skeletons' positions are highly based on how you control them and how you move. There's entire sections of the game where you can just make multiple skeletons fly off screen and leave without killing them, and it is faster in a lot of places as well. This boss is Craterack.
So we got Emimi reaching Terravine, Ziggy reaching Craterack. We're about a boss apart now. The new boss here on the left, Craterack, is a boss where you're going to want to play it somewhat safe by staying away from the boss. But then when he does this attack here with the rocks, you want to be up in his face, because being closer to the boss lets you spawn the rocks in a favorable position. Because when you hit the rock back at the boss, it actually does significantly more damage than if you just shoot it with your orbs.
You got 4 of them too. Getting a good setup for the 5 rock is really hard, because the rock spawns are based on your position and your momentum. So knowing when he's going to start the rock attack and getting a good initial setup for the rocks, as well as using your orbs smartly to hit them all, 5 rocking's not easy. But if you 5 rock and you get rocks last, it makes it possible to 2-cycle him, but there's additional RNG layered on that if that's even a possible strat. It depends on his attack selection in the vertical phase.
Emimi's having some trouble with Terravine. As we mentioned, it's a boss where you want to use your HP as a resource to be aggressive, but if you make a couple of mistakes, it's easy for that HP to become depleted, and then you're in trouble. So hopefully Emimi will be able to slow this down or play it, or make whatever adjustments he feels he needs to make to get through this. Ziggy cleaning up Craterack, and is now on to the 3 keys maze here.
You know what? Ziggy's smarter than me. He goes bottom key first, because top and middle are slightly based on cycles, so people reset to the save to make sure that they have a proper cycle for them. And if you go bottom key first, since you're safe warping back to the middle save anyway, you're guaranteed a good cycle for top and middle. I just can't wrap my brain around the idea of doing the keys in reverse order, so I just sort of slog through it regardless.
Alright, Emimi finally getting past Terravine there, so he will be on to the underworld here in just a moment. Meanwhile, Ziggy getting that second key and heading to the top path.
I feel like everyone has their own little strat for the section he's doing right now. Everyone does it slightly differently. He took the safety save. Oh yeah, this is way different from how I do it. These dash feathers give multiple dashes, so there's a bunch of different solutions to that puzzle.
And that is one safety save that I feel like it's not the worst one to take. It is a bit of a time loss to take it, but, well, the feathers...
part of the level, so...
Yeah, being able to do all those inputs for those quick feathers in such quick succession, it can be kind of difficult. And sometimes, even if your muscle memory is strong, your fingers will betray you.
So, coming up, there's the 4th key area. When I talked about fog walls earlier, they want to check for on-screen enemies. What's going to happen is there's going to be periodically spawning enemies. So the faster you take care of the existing ones, the earlier you can get through the fog wall before the next one spawns. The perfect strat involves killing only one of the fire dudes that pops up in the corner, but it requires pretty perfect movement. No, this could be multiple. 2, he can go. He can go after 2. There's 4, but he's good.
So there's
Yeah.
4 fire guys that will spawn there, but there's a big gap in between the second and the third one. So once you've killed the second one, as long as the centaur has been taken care of, you are free to go.
Huge skip coming up, by the way. The boss trigger to start the fight is in the middle, and the boss knocks you into it if you try and jump over it. You bring an enemy into the boss arena, use the invincibility, get as much height and distance as you can while still invincible. By the time the boss finally knocks you down, you scrape over the edge of the fight trigger and you don't trigger the fight at all. Boss completely skipped, which is fine. That boss was one of the bosses in this game that you couldn't really speed up. It was about the same time every time, even if you're a good player.
Yeah, the Ancient Constructs boss, it was, would you say, about a minute and a half long in time?
Yeah,
so that's a
fun,
fairly major
but,
skip.
You know,
has really
not
good
really
music, though, so that's the
necessary.
one thing that's sad about skipping it, is it had one of the best soundtracks in the game.
ruined. Bad speedrun, no good music. We only have the rest of this game's amazing soundtrack to listen to. May as well boycott it.
Darn.
Does Ziggy do this damage boost? Yeah, I like this strat. You can barely make it to that ledge. It makes it a little more consistent because the fire guy's teleportation is completely random, and if you go around, they can to you mid-jump. This is library skip. It's the flutter dash mechanic I talked about earlier, where with good timing, your flutter adds momentum onto the end of your dash, getting unexpected height, skipping about like 20 or so seconds worth of platforming.
Yeah, it's about 20. Because that platforming, it slows you down where you have to worry about these guys, the purple dude here, we call them brutes. They pace back and forth, and if they see you, they shoot you with a laser that does half of your HP. And so if you imagine, it's almost like an auto-scroller of a whole bunch of those guys, and you have to wait and wait and wait for them to turn around so that you can proceed while their back is turned towards you, which is kind of what we're going to do here with the elevator. However, luckily we can use all of these little platforms in the middle to take cover when we need to, or jump just barely outside of their gaze as we go up on the elevator.
I'm not supposed to make fun of the runners, but Emmy only hit 1 rock. That's really unfortunate. That's the old Ogre Rock meme right there.
Yeah, if you play it well and you get lucky, you can hit 5 rocks on Craterack. I would say on average you want to aim for at least 3, but sometimes things happen. It's a hard game.
Also, in my defense, if I only hit 1 rock and Emmy was on commentary, he would eviscerate me. So, I just have my one little thing.
Should be noted here on the elevator as well, these black swirly black holes that we like to call them, they will one-shot you if you touch them. And the turrets here, the purple bullets, they will do half your HP, so you've got to be very careful going up through this maze of winding shots.
I want to say that Ziggy might be ahead, but Emimi dances back and forth after he kills the boss, and it's cute. So I think that like we need to give a sort of like handicap to Emmy, like maybe like 5 minutes or so worth for like dance percent. It's only fair.
It's only fair. Okay, so Ziggy off the elevator, that's always a big sigh of relief, because that is one of the longest sections, and if you take a death at the end of that, it can be very costly. Shark, would you like to talk about Myogi 2?
Yep, okay, so the boss is an intermediary phase, which she's invincible. It lasts 40 seconds, you gotta wait it out. It's skippable if you stun her in the middle of the phase transition. Problem is, she stuns every 8 hits, and the HP just doesn't match up right. Thankfully, if you attack the boss too fast, you heal her instead of damaging her, so there's a sort of setup at the start of the fight where you do a count to get her HP at the perfect setup. What's this going to let you do later in the fight is, she only transitions between phases when she's actually at the end of her current animation. So you can knock her below the transition threshold of 40% HP during an animation, and use the rock she's throwing as a visual setup, use the attack itself as a visual setup to understand when you can attack a second time to stun her out of her transitioning phase, and then that actually just completely skips the invincible part. It's not easy to do, it takes some practice, but it's extremely rewarding because you save about 33 seconds somewhere in between when you succeed, but going for it and not getting it, you're losing like 10 additional seconds from just doing the boss normally. Okay.
Alright, looks like Ziggy got the skip, so we will not be watching a very long, somewhat boring attack here on the left, so that's good. As well as, it does also make the second part of this fight much easier.
Oh yeah, she doesn't spawn a homing skull. The homing skull, you have to bat away of shots constantly. It doesn't respond to melee attacks either, so it's just infuriating to deal with. Do lava skip. Come on, Ziggy, make me proud. Okay, so if you're a fun person, not a boring person, you jump so you're falling towards the lava. As soon as the cutscene comes up, you hit the button to skip the cutscene, so you already have momentum falling down through the lava where it disappears. but I mean, I guess he just wants to not die after killing the boss or something, which is boring.
Alright, so we have these spike balls that we have to proceed through here. And then there's going to be a room it's kind of an interesting room. You got to slide at a certain timing here to get through all these little worms, the slugs. And then you can damage boost through the queen slug here at the very end if you play it right, just like that.
He lost his cycle doing it, but it's really hard to get the fast cycle where you don't take the second hit. And if you take the second hit, you only have 5 HP for this room, which allows for no mistakes.
Okay, and Emimi is out of the underworld, got past ancient constructs just fine with the skip, and is making his way towards Myogi 2 through the library.
But here's the real question. Can Ziggy input the puzzle on first try?
I'm guessing yes.
Literally impossible input, what a god. He memorized 6 inputs in a row. I just don't know how he did it.
We're poking fun at the fact that so far in this tournament, it's been very common for people to mess up that puzzle.
I didn't say anything explicitly. You're the one that did it. I'm completely
Alright,
innocent.
so Ziggy got through the Oga cycle there. You can, if you go fast, you can get through the black holes like right away without having to do any waiting, so that's really good. And he's now in the chambers, which is one of my favorite parts of this game. The platforming takes a spike in difficulty here, but it's not really I would say it's less finicky than the platforming in other parts of this game. There's less like dealing with puzzles and stuff. It's mostly just jumping through spikes and traps.
Oh no! No, the last one! The last black hole! It's fine, he has music now. This area, for whatever reason, is bugged. It doesn't play music until you die one time. So every time you die, it's fine, you didn't lose time, you were just gaining music. Although we've got Amimi's music going on right now, which is also fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. I like the music from the Acropolis. Oh no, Mimi almost got up to that platform. Ziggy now doing this cool little trap here where you've got to carefully get above each spike as it rotates to go below the floor. There's like 3 different ways to do that.
I appreciate that he does the run and jump without the flutters. He spends less time waiting and more time shooting. You can do it faster than that. That was pretty good, though. Is this pacifist skeletons? Does he do it? Yeah, he does pacifist skeletons.
So this is a really cool strat right here, where because, as Shark talked about before, with the fog walls, the purple walls there, all they look for is whether there's an enemy on the screen or not. And so because the skeletons like to fly off screen, you can actually do this thing where you juggle them both to be off screen to the left.
It's
and then
way
as soon
harder
as they
than
do
it
that,
looks. Trust me,
you can
the
get
right
through
side.
the wall. And it also
not
combines
easy.
with the fact that the centaurs, the way they behave is they like to aim for your position, but you can manipulate them into jumping off of the screen as well. So
Oh good, he's doing quick kill strats. Alright, so you're supposed to fight the boss on the platform, we kind of fight off the platform. It lets you do more damage because they don't jump back and forth, and you get a lot more damage output in because they're just sort of consistently staying inside of your range. In addition to that, being able to dip below lets you stay in range while they're swinging the weapon when normally you have to dodge off way to the side. That's good damage on purple, he's good here. Notably, he took a 15 damage hit from the fire on the ground to damage tank for what would have been a 20 damage hit from the orc. Because every other hit in the fight does 20 damage, a 15 damage hit is essentially negligible. His damage output's fine, by the way. He's gonna get this. Bad spike angle, though. He can take one more hit, he's fine. Yeah, he got
Alright,
it.
it is very difficult to pull off that quick kill, so nice job to Ziggy as he gets through that on the first try.
If you don't quick kill, you have to deal with their enrage attack. One of them, you can kill them during it. Another one, you can finish them off, but they refuse to die until it ends like 20 seconds later. And the other one, they're just invincible.
So Ziggy reaching the Path of Decay, this is basically, well, the demon's homeworld, so this is where things really ramp up in this game. In the meanwhile, Emimi is now on Myogi 2. Looks like he's also going to attempt the enrage skip, so we'll see how that works out for him.
And Ziggy's looks are still like really clean. I'm pretty impressed. He's been playing a lot of practice into the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, let's explain the beating hearts. You just need to touch these, but there's a cooldown between when you can touch it the next time. So it's sort of user create puzzles where you have to make use of the resources of these breaking platforms and try and hit it multiple times.
So you're gonna see.
Chat. Are these guys strawberries or what? They look like strawberries to me.
I
It's an
still
important
vote
question.
that they
Can you
are
color check
strawberries.
this? Fight me.
Oh, what's very interesting about here in the Path of Decay, I guess, from a a casual gameplay standpoint is you have to use very often all of your jumps and your flutter just to be able to make it from one side of a screen to another. And you have to do it with crumbly platforms and enemies just, behind you on every step. It can be very challenging at first. And now we're seeing it best shown here with the climb. This is one of the most notorious saves.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But he took damage when he was supposed to be swinging, so it kind of hit him out of his window.
He made that look pretty easy, so nice job. Meanwhile, Mimi did not get the enraged skip on Mayogi 2, so you're seeing him dodge a lot of stuff. And now there's this really angry skull that's going to haunt him until this boss is dead or he is.
I'm still waiting for a runner to do the second fast bone snipe because I keep talking about it, but you can't visualize what it is. You just have to kind of see it, and it looks really good. And I just want to see Ziggy go for it. This is a weird fast try here. Those walls collapse when you hit the beating hearts 4 times, and you can actually use the collapsing wall itself as something to land on to get your jumps back, but it's not easy to do. It's fun. It only saves 3 seconds and you might die, but it's fun. He didn't do it. Someday.
And so now he's going to be picking up one of our favorite abilities in this game. We like to call it the Space Meatball. But essentially you turn into some sort of a demon, and you're able to fly for a limited amount of time. And that time is based on the red fire that's kind of surrounding you. And each time you touch a red flame on the screen, you'll get that back. So you can keep going in the air with the form, which is he had to use for that maze right there.
Cake, I just wanted to apologize for you that you have this amazing serious tone, but you're using my terminology that infected this game. So you got esports commentary saying arcane space meatball, and honestly, I've just done everyone a disservice. Or a favor! I'm trying to figure that out. We'll see. It doesn't have the space meatball.
I really do like the term space meatball.
Nice. Okay. Is he gonna fast cycle this room? If you're good if you do that right when he turns around, you can get these kind of scary flutters off the ground, but hitting your head on the platforms above your head. And it works. You can go through in one cycle before he turns around and shoots lasers at you, but it's not free. There we go. You got it.
There's actually an strat that's been found where you can do a very precise jump and onto the second platform, and then you can do a slide and flutter, and you can actually end up above the brute's head, so he can't see you as he turns around and get out of there without having to do the flutters. So there's a couple fast strats for that room.
This boss, man.
But Azrael now, one of my favorite bosses.
Okay, you don't hate this boss.
I do not hate this boss. I think it's really cool. This boss is the queen of forcing you to multitask. You have to watch out for attacks coming at you. You have to watch out for platforms being pulled away from you, and you have to juggle those by hitting the green souls up above the arena. And when those drop down, they'll raise them back up. And you also have to juggle doing your damage to the boss, which you can only do some at a time. Because if you do too much, it's going to pop her red shield, which makes her invulnerable for a short amount of time, and results in a time loss.
It looks like your damage pacing is seriously capped by the way the shield just sort of goes up and down, but it's very easy to lose your damage output because you're too busy dealing with the other mechanics, killing things that spawn, dealing with the red shards surrounding your player that attack you when you attack, so you need to deal, you can't really attack freely when those are out. It's very easy to just completely have a shield go all the way down, you're losing out on possible damage opportunity. And you might just die to the attacks or to gravity at any time because you just, completely brain wrecked by the multitasking.
Unfortunately, Mimi failed the pacifist skeleton strat the first time, had to redo that section. But on the plus side, we do have Chambers music, which I do love.
Alright, Ziggy's looking a lot more clean this time. He hasn't taken any hits yet. Really gotta play it safe with the red shards sometimes. You can do them without transforming into the demon meatball, but it's usually more finicky. You can only dodge the horizontal ones while sliding, and other ones at specific points of your jump. It saves time to do it that way though, because transforming into the meatball is sort of on a delay, about a second or so. You need to be holding a button for a long time to make it come out.
Okay, so here we are in the Orcs fight for Emimi, and he is also going for the quick kill, so I actually believe he does the quick kill a bit differently than Ziggy does, so we'll see the variance here.
I'm watching for differences. I haven't seen any yet. Is he going to cross early? No, he's staying on that side.
Yeah,
it's the same so far. Purple got the extra jump. Red's phase is going to be cut short. He might not get it.
So Emimi's going for the strat that I have tended to favor so far since this game was changed a little bit. It looks like Ziggy,
He's got to kill
unfortunately,
purple earlier. He's
took a
going to
death
not get
on
the quick
Azrael.
kill. He can still salvage just by killing purple right now, preventing the fade. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Yeah, so that's how you play
just
that.
about this, just about the switch. So he finished
Oh
on
no! But he what happened right there
jeez.
was he fluttered off to the edge to do damage on red, and he jumped once, and then he was going to use his second jump to get back to the main platform. But there's an issue where if you get hit right when you're pressing the jump key,
It
it basically stops your momentum,
You get nothing.
but then you'll just fall. So
if there's one thing this game does magnificently, it makes you look like an idiot when you mess up. You don't mess up gracefully in this game. It's basically impossible. And it's so easy to make mistakes in some of these sections as well.
but both of our runners having some trouble with the bosses they're on right now. Just a reminder for anyone watching this, especially if you're just coming in, this game is difficult. These bosses, they can punish you. The slightest mistake can be very costly.
It's not just a desperate plea like, I swear our runners are not bad. This game is really punishing people trying it for the first time. They always tell us, like, it didn't look that hard, never mind. I don't like this. I keep dying.
It's just one of those
It took us
deceptive
6 hours to
games.
the final boss.
It's a deceptive game where just the runners make it look so easy, but it's really not.
When you have a really clean run and you don't take any extra deaths basically anywhere, the game looks completely free. And that's when you know it was a good run.
Alright, so Ziggy clutching that fight on Azrael, getting out of the Path of Decay, and now we are on the Heart of the Baneful, which is the homeworld of Jeul, the Demon Lord.
Oh yeah, Amethyst is your friend now, but she's kind of a jerk because she can't just keep these platforms living. Gotta make you work for it. She's shady and we all know it.
She also likes to troll you here on this screen sometimes by just deciding to not really shoot anything, even though she could very easily clean up the last couple of dudes.
Oh yeah, that's like the last like annoying RNG part in the game on platforming.
Alright,
Doesn't
so
have huge
Emimi,
impact.
Emimi, as you see here, he actually triggered one of the enrage phases of the orcs, but it's a good one because you're able to finish them off, and as soon as this phase ends, the orcs will just collapse.
Oh,
There
if you
we
get
go.
that attack, you can just die in the middle of it, and they'll still die at the end of the range. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You
there
can
are
just-
there are some bosses in this game where double kills are okay, where you can kill the boss and then take a death, but then you'll still get past it. It'll count towards your progress. There are others where it will not work.
All right, Ziggy's coming up on J1 here. Which weapon does he use? Lust? Yeah, figures. Most people use this weapon. A closer range weapon's better on average, but it's way harder to use properly, and it's actually worse on some of the attacks, better on other ones.
So it's basically just a risk reward thing. It's
What's
a
that
little
triple
bit
headshot?
harder.
Triple headshot? Hello?
Triple headshot. Type.
MLG? Give me like hit confirm noises from Call of Duty. That does headshots do what? 40% more damage as opposed to regular spike hits?
Something like that. They definitely drain the boss's health pretty fast. The thing about this boss too is you don't actually need to deplete his health all the way to 0. As long as you get down to 10% or less, he will just kind of fall over. So it's a pretty fast fight once you know what you're doing, especially with the spikes.
You can break all 3 spikes with Lust even when the fight speeds up, but you need to damage the third one halfway when you're breaking the second one. Fight's over, by the way, after this attack. There we go.
Alright, so
Final boss coming up. The important thing to know
Final-
is there's constant damage during the final boss. You're constantly taking damage. It's mitigated by health orbs that spawn when one of your friends drops them, but you need to actually go over and collect them, so any health orb they miss is basically 15 points of damage taken. This is really a boss about very good movement, reacting to what happens, and using your health as a resource to get killed quickly.
And one of the most important things there is just being able to know where the boss is going to go, which I would say is the main thing that most newer players struggle with, and newer runners.
Yeah, you have to hit him in the head for the weak point. You just do terrible damage anywhere else. You can't stand in those circles, they burn you if you stand in them. There's a bunch of other mechanics going on. There's these traps you need to lead him to. It's the hardest boss to kill in the run, it's the hardest boss to do fast in the run. People famously choke on the boss when they use their HP to tank for more damage and then just end up dying.
Fortunately, Emimi having some trouble with the platforming in Path of Decay, took a couple deaths there trying to get to this save. And now he's on the climb, which is one of the hardest saves in the game. Meanwhile,
Ziggy's on damage pace for Quick and Rage. He got left scream, which is the best scream position. He can do that
So
anywhere in the arena. That was good.
The ideal way to play this boss is to enrage him, which is to go below 40% HP
He's got
on
it.
the dive attack right here. So he's going to trap him in the ice
No!
trap. Ooh, actually missed the
How did
dive.
he just curse?
So
Should use the visual
that's going to first of all force a second shout here from J2, which makes you have to take cover and wait. And then when you do enrage this boss now, there's a slight chance that it's going to kind of freak out a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of jank when you enrage him in between attacks sometimes. He'll try to leave, but also start an attack at the same time, so he'll start attacks from the wrong position, which really isn't very helpful.
Fortunately, that did not happen here.
He missed all the damage but got the orb for safety, because he's a little low on HP. If you don't kill those worms instantly, they'll circle around and come back for you. It's the absolute worst.
So Ziggy's playing
pretty well.
He's playing a very safe fight so far, so I like how Ziggy's playing this.
Don't tank it, just go below. Yeah, he's so far ahead that I don't want to see him die to the final boss at this point. You can tank the sweeping up and down laser and stay in melee range and only take one hit, but